What up everyone, I am GallantHavoc and I'm back with another review. And oh boy, has this been a long time coming. Today we'll be reviewing none other than Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. So if you're new here, I am a huge Zelda fan. My first review on this channel was on Breath of the Wild. I loved that game. Then I did a review on my favorite video game of all time, Ocarina of Time. Loved it. So when Age of Calamity was announced, my hopes were high. And guess what? Loved it too. Alright, end of review. Roll credits. No, that's not how we do things. Age of Calamity is another crack at the Dynasty Warriors-like game where you play as not just series protagonist Link, but a wide cast of beloved Zelda characters. But unlike the original Hyrule Warriors, which I also loved, whose cast and world was spread out through the entire Zelda series, Age of Calamity takes place solely in the world of Breath of the Wild, 100 years ago, telling the story of the Great Calamity which we hear about in Breath of the Wild, but with a twist. I'm trying not to go into spoilers, but wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff is involved. Anyway, that being said, in typical Warriors fashion, you are gifted with a wide cast of characters to choose from aside from Link, each with their own perks and quirks. However, I will say the game does kind of force you to play as Link quite often, given he is the series protagonist. Me, on the other hand, I preferred playing as Daruk and Urbosa. Oh, Urbosa. What? I like lightning. Urbosa for elegance and lightning. Daruk for power and crowd control. It's you against an army of monsters that you can easily swat aside. Of course, then there's the boss enemies that make things a little more difficult. Progressively so as the game goes on. And the game takes the already existing enemies you face in Breath of the Wild and adds more diversity to them by giving them some upgrades and variations. As if Guardians and Lynels were bad enough, now we have elemental variants and the dreaded Malice versions. The first time I saw a Malice Guardian, I felt like Roger Rabbit when he was babysitting baby Herman. As if normal Guardians weren't enough from both Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild, now you have not only Vietnam flashbacks, but pure nightmare fuel. Same could be said of the Lynels as well, making them even more ferocious. And sometimes, the difficulty can really be stacked against you, especially later in the game. There are plenty of side missions to make things a tad easier, and a very welcome weapon upgrade system, which I feel like the Breath of the Wild sequel could benefit from. One can hope. That being said though, the missions can be a bit grindy, having to collect resources quite often, which could become pretty tedious pretty quickly, especially after repeating the same mission to gather an abundance of a specific material. Lucky enough, the game's diverse roster offers enough differences to still feel somewhat fresh. However, best make sure you level up the roster evenly, as it could very well come back to bite you. Looking at you, Rivali. Dick. As said before, the game does sort of force you into playing as Link, which leads him to being the most overpowered of the warriors, for better or for worse. He's also the one who has the most customization, which I'm not complaining about at all, but I would have liked to see a similar level of freedom in the other characters. I know he's the main protagonist of the entire Zelda series, but come on man, share the spotlight. Not saying he doesn't as a character in the story of this game, but you see what I'm saying. Now I did say I wasn't going to go into spoilers, but when it comes to this game, the story was one of the biggest things fans were looking forward to about the game, and I'd be remiss without at the very least addressing some of the pros and cons. Starting with pros. The story fills in some of the gaps and answers some of the questions that Breath of the Wild created. These include the state of Hyrule at the time, Zelda's relationship with her father, King Rhoam, where Impa was pre-Calamity Hyrule, the looming threat of Calamity Ganon, the inclusion and expansion of the Yiga clan, and the game's new villain, Astor. That being said, though, the story has a very big twist involving time travel, a staple in the Zelda series, and the way they handle it is, for the most part, interesting and actually decent. I'll go into that in a bit. The game also provided an absolute load of content that has made Zeldatubers go ham on new theories, speculation, and analyses. I eat that stuff up and would love to offer my own 2 cents, but I feel like anything I say has already been said. I don't know, maybe someday. But I digress. For the most part, the story is decent. However, there are cons. There's some differences and changes to the original lore of Breath of the Wild, some of which really makes you question the creative direction. The time travel plays into it as well. When I first played the demo, I was actually very skeptical when the little egg guardian went back in time. Not only because I feel the time travel trope has been overdone in recent years, Avengers Endgame, Doctor Who, but weird as it sounds, I did not want the story of Breath of the Wild, minimal as it was, to be changed in any way. And in some cases, I stand by that notion. But on the other, I will say this about Age of Calamity's narrative. Now, like I said, trying not to go into spoilers, but think of Age of Calamity like the bastard love child of T2, Judgment Day, and Endgame. And to some degree, I might add, it borders on fanfiction. But this isn't a Zelda game. This is a Warriors game set in the Zelda universe. I'm going to say one thing that everyone who knows Zelda lore understands, or by extension, anyone who understands certain aspects of time travel. And this may be, in some shape or form, a spoiler, you've been warned, 2 words: alternate timeline. Which means the story of Breath of the Wild remains, thankfully, untouched in terms of canon. And with that, I will shut up about the story of Age of Calamity. If you're a Zelda fan, and by extension, a Breath of the Wild fan, Age of Calamity is definitely worth it from a story standpoint. If you're not a Warriors fan, then that's fine. Avoid it if you like. That being said, I myself am giving Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity a Gallant rating of 4 out of 5. This game was, for the most part, everything I wanted it to be. Sure, there's some grindy bits, and the story was far from the Halo Reach atmosphere I was sort of hoping for, but I am altogether glad with what we got. If they did go down the Rogue One Halo Reach route, it'd be a bit depressing for a game set in the Zelda universe. And now with the expansion pass coming later this year, there's even more reason to revisit it. Please let there be some content that alludes to Breath of the Wild 2, because goddamn I need a fix.
I need it!
Which is another thing. Nintendo made a very, very wise decision to release this to tide over the wait. Sure, I beat it within a month of getting it, but I always go back to it to scratch a more violent Zelda itch. Either that, or the original, which I bought again for the Switch upon hearing of Age of Calamity, because, you know, I have it for both the Wii U and the 3DS already. So what did you all think of Age of Calamity? Let me know. In the meantime, folks, I'm GallantHavoc, and I'll see you all later.